Are you looking for some fun, easy ways to zhuzh up your eggs? In this video, I'm sharing 3 easy recipes from silky smooth scrambled eggs to eggs in puff pastry that look fancy but are actually super simple to an Instagram inspired croissant egg. I've got you covered. I've got recipes for no matter what your energy level is. Perfect for low energy days or when you want to impress without stress. My name's Larissa and this is the Concussion Crew, where we share tips and tricks and recipes for making life a little bit easier and more delicious. Let's start off. This recipe is easy to assemble. It cooks in 15 to 20 minutes and it looks kind of fancy without taking too much effort. Start by taking a croissant and cutting it in half this way. So not the way you normally would, but cutting it in half. Like this. Then you're going to take it and open it up a bit so that you've got a place in the middle for the egg to sit. And then that's going to go right into a jumbo muffin tin. I'm going to do that a couple more times. This recipe is from Kimberly Koch, and she's on TikTok. I will tag her here. Hers are a little different from mine. I use old cheddar because I like it. I am adding in a little bit of asparagus because I have asparagus in my fridge that I need to use up, and a little bit of green never hurts. So now that I have these in the muffin tin, I'm going to crack the eggs into the little cup I've created, and it's going to spill, and that's fine. So it turns out that if you're trying to hold the muffin tin in one hand and demonstrate for the camera with the other, you're going to make a mess. I've got my oven preheating to 390 degrees. And if you find that you've purchased some croissants that look a little on the small side, like I did apparently, you can always use 1 croissant per egg. That would look like cutting off a little less so that you've got more croissant with which to put your fillings. One of my favorite kitchen investments is this cheese storage and shredding unit. It fits one of the large blocks of cheese. You can cut it in half and the 2 halves sit inside. It keeps it from going bad. It keeps it from getting all dried out. You can just cube it up if you want to, but once you take the lid off, there is a grater right on it. So now that I'm feeling better, I am more able to stand in my kitchen for longer periods of time. I am saving some money by grating my own cheese, and this makes it super simple. I got 1 larger piece of ham. It's a little bit thicker. And I'm just cutting some slices so that I can put that on top of the eggs. You can make these your own by swapping out the ham and putting in turkey instead. You could do finer, more shreds as opposed to little cubes. I encourage you to experiment and see what makes your heart happy and your tummy happy. Asparagus! And then you just sprinkle a little bit of cheese on top. Or sprinkle a lot of cheese on top. If you enjoy cheese, you do you, boo. In the original recipe, she uses mozzarella, but I am an old cheddar kind of girl. Because I am an old girl. There we go. And now into the oven for 15 minutes. Then I'm going to check on it, make sure the eggs are cooked, and give it a couple extra minutes if need be. gorgeous. You'll notice that because croissants are made with butter, I didn't even spray the inside of the muffin tin and they slid out very easily. Another fairly easy peasy option is eggs in pastry shells. This recipe is from the cookbook Eggs 60 Ways by Marshall Cavendish. If you're looking for ways to switch up your egg game, this is it. This is another one of those really flexible recipes where if you think, my family does not like Parmesan, I would love to do this, but that's not going to fly. Then grab cheddar. If you don't like nutmeg, omit the nutmeg. If you have fresh chives, use the fresh chives. You can substitute in different spices like basil is nice, thyme is nice. There's just so much you can do with this base recipe. I'm going to start by lining my pan with some aluminum foil. I am taking half a package of puff pastry. I took it out of the freezer last night. I thawed it in my fridge overnight, and now I'm going to roll it out. And you might be thinking, Larissa, why do you have a bottle of partially drunk wine at breakfast time? Well, that's because I can't find my rolling pin. This wine is left over from making a risotto, and it was in my fridge, and it is cylindrical, it is smooth, and I gave it a quick wipe down, and I'm going to roll out my puff pastry. The recipe says to roll it out to 1/4 inch. If you don't have a rolling pin and you don't have a bottle of wine, you could use your hands. Just squish it down. It'll be fine. There is a mom on TikTok. Her name is Alex, and her motto is, we use what we have. I love it. I am not going out and buying a rolling pin just for a couple of recipes that I make infrequently. Here's the thing. Julia Childs, I am not. I'm trying to share how I make things a little bit easier in my kitchen. Maybe I should take the labels off of this bottle. Maybe I should put it into boiling water so that it's completely de-germed. Little germ ain't gonna kill me. I'm gonna say that this is good enough. Now, I am taking my ever so classy dollar store set of fluted cookie cutters, and maybe not the largest one, but I will take one and I'm going to cut 4. This looks like it's gonna fit 4. If it doesn't, I'm gonna make it. There we go. So now I've got 4 of these little rounds. I'm going to take a smaller one, a smaller cookie cutter, and I am cutting the center out of 2 of these guys. And I'm putting the center back with the cutoffs, so I could re-roll this and make more. The recipe says to use a 2-inch cutter to cut out your rounds, and then a 1.5 to cut smaller rounds. Into a bowl, I'm cracking an egg, lightly beating the egg, and then I'm going to brush it onto the full rounds. Pop the pastry that has the little cutouts on top of the full ones, and then I'm going to brush a little more egg right on top. And if you're looking at this and you're saying, but Larissa, that is too shallow. That is not going to hold an egg. You, my friend, are not wrong. We are going to put our tray with our puff pastries into the oven for about 5 minutes at 350 degrees. And this is going to puff up and give us our base. Now to a bowl, we're going to scramble 6 eggs, 4 tablespoons of milk, a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and a 1/2 teaspoon each of pepper and salt. The recipe calls for fresh chives. I have dehydrated chives on hand, so I'm going to use what I have. The recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of grated Parmesan, but we measure cheese with our heart. If you ever look into your bowl and think, that's not enough cheese, you're probably right. Now I'm going to put a frying pan on. We're going to scramble these guys, and once the bases are done, we'll give them a minute to settle, and then we're going to add the scrambled egg mixture into the puff pastries, and it's going to look so cute. And it was easy, and it's something that you can make for yourself. I think something that I need to remember when I'm beating myself up for not being able to cook is that right now I need one hand to hold on to the frying pan so it doesn't move around my stove, and I need one hand to stir with, which means that I'm not really leaning against anything. I'm trying to lean against the oven, but it's hot because I've got the puff pastries inside of it. And a lot of days, this would not be possible for me. Aren't they cute? I like them. They make me feel like I'm eating something a little fancier than scrambled eggs, even though it really is just scrambled eggs inside of puff pastry. As long as I remember to put the puff pastry into the refrigerator the night before, it takes almost no time to roll it out and pop it into the oven. They bake while I'm cooking the eggs, and it looks kind of fancy, even though it doesn't take much prep. What is it about puff pastry that feels fancy? 15-second creamy eggs. You heard that right. This recipe comes from the cookbook Simply Genius, and by adding in a little bit of extra starch, it helps give the scrambled eggs a really lovely silky texture. It kind of feels like brunch at a fancy cafe with little to no extra effort. So into my bowl, I'm putting 1 tablespoon plus 1.5 teaspoons of whole milk. And then I'm adding in 2¼ teaspoons of potato starch. And then we will mix this together. And now adding in my 3 eggs. I am literally the world's worst egg cracker. I know I've asked this before, but why when you wet your finger first, does the eggshell kind of stick right to the tip of your finger? What magic is that? That's just amazing. Okay, and mix and fix. My pan is on medium heat. I used to cook my eggs on a very low heat and do a lot of slow stirring, which made some really nice eggs. They didn't get dry and hard. But this is higher heat. It's a quicker cook time, and the reason that it works and produces some custardy, creamy eggs is because of the starch. So the potato starch or tapioca starch or whatever starch you're using, it keeps the proteins from seizing up, thus making delicious eggs. These scrambled eggs come together in one bowl, and if you are going to say that there's an extra step, it's just that you put the milk in and then add the starch and whip that until it's smooth. So it's not a big additional step. To that, you'll add your eggs, salt, pepper, and scramble that up. Today, I'm using potato starch. The recipe says that you can use cornstarch or tapioca starch instead. I'm using potato starch. Now here comes the crazy part. We're going to move to the stove and do some crazy cooking. Once the pan is hot, and when you put a little bit of water on it, it should sizzle. At this point, you're going to add the butter, and when the butter is melted and a little bubbly, but before it gets brown, you're going to put the eggs in with a silicone spatula, and you're not going to stir. You just want to wait for the edges of the eggs to start to bubble up, and that's going to be super quick. That's going to take about 3 seconds. Now you're going to slide the skillet off the heat to a cool burner, and you're going to do about 12 rotations around the pan with your spatula. For 12 seconds, it's going to be 1 rotation around the pan, 2 rotations around the pan, 3 rotations. So it should take you about a second to get around the pan. You're going to do it about 12 times until the eggs have absorbed the butter, but still look a little wetter and looser than you want them. And you're going to put those onto a plate because they're going to finish cooking in the residual heat. So you don't want to overcook them. You don't want them to look good on the pan and then keep on cooking when you put them on your plate, because then they will be too firm. This is a super fast cooking process. Blink and you'll miss it. And that's it. 3 easy ways to level up your eggs, whether it's for breakfast or having breakfast for dinner. Let us know in the comments if you have an egg hack that you'd like to share. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're interested in more easy recipes or life hacks. And remember that you are not alone trying to make everyday life a little bit easier and a little bit tastier. 3 eggs. Oh my gosh, this recipe calls for 3 eggs and I have 3 eggs left. Life is great. It's the little things. My brain is broken and that's okay.